Endings are among the most challenging moments we encounter in life. They ask us to confront the reality that something we've invested in, be it time, energy, love, or hope, has run its course. Whether it's a relationship, a career path, a project, or even a version of ourselves, endings often come with a deep sense of loss. But what makes them so difficult isn't just the loss itself, it's the uncertainty of what comes next. There's a natural human tendency to cling to what's familiar, even when it no longer serves us. The thought of moving on can feel overwhelming, so we hold tight to routines, people, or roles that keep us anchored in the past. But what if the anchor is what's holding us back? It takes tremendous courage to untangle ourselves from the things that once felt safe but now weigh us down. Courage in the face of endings is not about shutting off emotions or pretending we're fine. It's about acknowledging the fear, sadness, or anger that comes with change and moving forward anyway. It's about recognizing that endings are a natural part of life's rhythm. One door closes so another can open. Still, we resist because endings often feel like failures. We ask ourselves, what could I have done differently? Did I try hard enough? Why wasn't I enough to make this work? These questions can trap us in a loop of self-doubt, making it even harder to let go. But here's the truth: endings are not failures. They are signposts marking transitions, reminding us that life is fluid and constantly evolving. To accept an ending is to honor the time and effort we put into that chapter, to say, this mattered and shaped me. It's an act of respect for the journey we've been on, even if the destination didn't look like what we had imagined. Courage comes when we stop fighting the reality of an ending and start leaning into its lessons. What did this experience teach me? How did it change me? And perhaps the hardest question of all, how can I let go of what I thought it should be to embrace what it is? Endings challenge us to be brave enough to let go of certainty and trust that there's more waiting for us on the other side, even if we can't yet see it. Pain is a universal experience, yet it's one that many of us spend our lives trying to avoid. We're conditioned to think of hurt as something to be feared, as a sign of weakness or failure. We numb it with distractions, bury it under busyness, or convince ourselves that it doesn't matter. But the truth is, pain doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. It lingers in the background, quietly shaping our thoughts, actions, and relationships until we finally acknowledge it. To embrace the hurt is to give ourselves permission to feel, to sit with the discomfort, instead of running from it. This isn't easy. Pain often arrives with a flood of emotions: anger, grief, confusion, or even shame. It can feel overwhelming, like a storm that will never pass. But when we allow ourselves to feel these emotions, we begin to understand their purpose. Hurt is not the enemy, it's a signal, a teacher, a mirror reflecting what matters most to us. Think about it, we only hurt deeply when we care deeply. The pain of a lost relationship comes from the love we invested. The ache of a missed opportunity stems from the dreams we dared to dream. Hurt is a reminder that we are alive, that we are engaged in the messy, beautiful process of being human. It shows us where our values lie and what we need to heal. But for that healing to begin, we must first face the hurt head on. This process is not about wallowing or letting the pain define us. It's about recognizing that our feelings are valid, even when they're uncomfortable. Too often we're told to move on or get over it, as if pain is a hurdle to jump rather than a journey to walk through. But skipping over the hurt only delays the inevitable. When we suppress or deny our pain, it doesn't go away, it festers. It manifests as resentment, bitterness, or a hardening of the heart. Embracing the hurt requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is not weakness. It's the strength to say, I'm not okay, and that's okay. It's allowing ourselves to cry, to be angry, to feel lost, and to know that these emotions are part of the healing process. Pain has a way of stripping us down to our most authentic selves, revealing truths we might have otherwise ignored. It can teach us empathy, resilience, and the importance of connection. The act of embracing hurt is also an act of self-compassion. It's resisting the urge to judge ourselves for feeling broken or fragile. It's reminding ourselves that everyone feels pain and that it's a natural response to life's challenges. When we stop resisting the hurt and start leaning into it, we create space for growth. We give ourselves permission to process, to grieve, and to eventually move forward with a deeper understanding of who we are. Healing is often portrayed as a linear journey, one where time passes, wounds close, and eventually we emerge stronger. But in reality, healing is anything but linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and often frustrating. It doesn't follow a set path or a timetable. There are days when we feel like we're moving forward and other days when we're pulled back into the pain as if no progress has been made. Healing, like growth, happens in cycles and seasons, and sometimes those cycles feel like they'll never end. The first step in healing is acknowledging that we are wounded. This seems simple, yet many of us resist it. We tend to avoid our pain either because we fear it will consume us or because we've been taught to just get over it. But healing cannot begin in denial. It starts when we admit to ourselves that something is wrong, that we are hurting, and that we need care. This requires vulnerability, our willingness to acknowledge that we are human, not invincible, and that we need time, support, and space to heal. Healing isn't just about the absence of pain, it's about the integration of that pain into our lives. It's about understanding that our wounds don't define us, but they do shape us. We cannot heal by pretending the hurt doesn't exist or by pushing it away. Instead, we must face it, learn from it, and let it transform us. This process requires patience with ourselves, with the slow, sometimes frustrating pace of recovery, and with the setbacks we inevitably encounter along the way. One of the most challenging aspects of healing is accepting that it is not always a straightforward journey. There may be days when we feel as though we've taken 2 steps forward, only to wake up the next day feeling as though we've taken 5 steps back. This is not a failure, it's part of the process. Healing is messy, and it doesn't happen in a straight line. It often feels like a spiral where we revisit the same emotions, questions, and experiences multiple times. With each pass, we go deeper, learn more, and integrate the lessons from the pain in new ways. It's also essential to understand that healing is not something we do alone. Yes, we must do the inner work, but it's okay to lean on others. In fact, healing often involves reaching out to those we trust, whether it's family, friends, or even professional support. There is power in sharing our stories and being witnessed in our pain and in receiving the compassion and understanding of others. This connection is a vital part of healing. When we feel seen, heard, and validated, it allows us to feel less alone in our struggles. Another essential element of healing is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about absolving the other person or the situation that caused the pain, but about freeing ourselves from the grip of anger, resentment, and bitterness. It's about letting go of the need for justice or retribution and choosing peace instead. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, not the other party. It's a step toward releasing the emotional hold that past hurts have on us, so that we can create space for new experiences, new relationships and new growth. The healing process also involves learning how to care for ourselves in new ways. When we're hurt, it's easy to neglect our own needs. We may isolate ourselves, lose interest in activities we once enjoyed, or stop taking care of our bodies. But healing requires us to reconnect with ourselves to nurture our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. This might look like taking time to rest, practicing self-compassion, engaging in creative outlets, or seeking professional help. It's about rediscovering the practices that nourish us and making them a priority. In this process, we also come to realize that healing doesn't mean we will be the same as we were before the hurt. We may wish for a return to the way things were, but that's not realistic. Healing means change, and change can be scary. But it can also be incredibly beautiful. As we heal, we evolve, we gain new insights, grow in resilience, and develop a deeper understanding of ourselves. Healing doesn't erase the pain, but it gives us the tools to live with it, to move forward without being defined by it. It's also important to remember that healing takes time. It's a process that cannot be rushed. It requires space for tears, for grief, for anger, and for moments of joy and hope. It's easy to get frustrated with the pace of healing, especially when we want to feel better right now. But time is a crucial part of the process. Time allows us to process our emotions, gain perspective, and find new ways of coping. It also gives us the opportunity to reflect on the journey, to understand how far we've come and to become, and to appreciate the growth that happens even in the hardest moments. Healing isn't about perfection. It's about showing up for ourselves even on the days when it feels like we're not making progress. It's about being kind to ourselves, especially when we're struggling. And it's about allowing ourselves to experience the full spectrum of emotions, because it's through this range of experiences that we discover our true capacity for resilience. One of the most difficult challenges we face in life is letting go of control and attachment. From an early age, we're taught that control is synonymous with power and security. We are conditioned to believe that if we just manage things enough, predict outcomes, and hold on tightly to what we have, we can avoid failure and disappointment. But the reality is that control is an illusion. The more we try to control everything, the more we feel trapped by our own expectations, and the more we cling to things that no longer serve us. Attachment is another layer of this struggle. We form attachments to people, places, possessions, and even identities. These attachments provide us with a sense of safety, a sense of belonging. But they also bind us to certain outcomes, to a vision of how life should be, and they often hold us back from experiencing the fullness of what life has to offer. Our attachment to a particular way of being, a particular version of success, or a specific relationship can create a prison of our own making. We tie our worth, our sense of security, and our happiness to things that are ultimately outside of our control. Letting go of control and attachment is not about giving up. It's about accepting that life is unpredictable and fluid. It's about surrendering to the truth that we cannot dictate every detail of our lives. And that's okay. In fact, it's necessary. Life's unpredictability is what makes it rich with possibility. When we release the need to control, we open ourselves up to new experiences, new opportunities, and new ways of seeing the world. This process of releasing isn't easy. It requires us to confront our fears, the fear that if we let go, we'll lose something important, or worse, we'll lose ourselves. We fear that if we stop controlling every situation, things will fall apart or spiral out of our grasp. The thought of releasing can feel like a free fall, like stepping into the unknown without a safety net. But in reality, the fear of letting go is often more paralyzing than the act of letting go itself. When we try to control everything, we end up exhausting ourselves. We burn out, we become anxious, and we find ourselves stuck in cycles of overthinking and overmanaging. In contrast, when we release control, we create space for trust and resilience. We stop trying to bend reality to our will and instead allow things to unfold as they will. Releasing control also means acknowledging that we cannot change the past and we cannot predict the future. This can be one of the hardest truths to accept. We may look back and wish we had done things differently, or we may hold on to the hope that things will turn out the way we want them to. But by doing so, we trap ourselves in a cycle of regret or anticipation, preventing ourselves from fully engaging with the present moment. To release control is to stop fighting against the flow of life, to stop worrying about what could have been or what might be, and to focus on what is. Attachment in its many forms keeps us locked in this cycle. We become so attached to certain outcomes that we lose sight of the bigger picture. We might become attached to a specific career path, thinking that it's the only way to find meaning or success. Or we might become attached to an idea of what our relationships should look like, trying to mold them into a perfect image. We hold on to these attachments because they give us a sense of identity. But when we cling too tightly, we risk losing the very thing we're trying to hold on to. Letting go of attachment requires us to challenge our definitions of success, happiness, and fulfillment. It asks us to question why we've attached ourselves to certain things or outcomes, and whether they truly align with who we are or who we want to become. Releasing attachment is about releasing the need for perfection and embracing imperfection. It's about accepting that we are constantly evolving, that what we needed at one point in our lives may not be what we need now. This doesn't mean abandoning our values or desires, nor does it mean becoming passive or disengaged. Releasing control and attachment doesn't equate to giving up or resigning ourselves to a life of passivity. Rather, it's about recognizing that we are active participants in our lives, but we are not the sole authors of every story. There is power in knowing what we can control: our actions, our responses, our decisions, and there is wisdom in understanding what we cannot. Releasing control and attachment also means learning how to navigate change. Change is often what triggers our need for control and attachment. When life shifts in ways we didn't expect, whether through loss, transition, or unexpected events, our instinct is to grab hold of something familiar to stabilize us. Yet change is a constant, and it is often the very thing that pushes us toward growth. Letting go of the need to control change doesn't mean accepting everything that happens passively. It means responding to change with openness and flexibility, knowing that we can adapt and learn from whatever comes our way. At its core, releasing control and attachment is an act of trust. It is trusting that we are resilient enough to handle whatever life throws at us, and that we are resourceful enough to navigate the unknown. It is trusting in the process of life itself and in our ability to grow through it. When we release control and attachment, we step into a place of greater freedom, of freedom, of freedom, of freedom that allows us to experience life more fully, more authentically, and more openly. This process doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without resistance. There will be moments when we want to take control again, moments when attachment feels comforting and safe. But each time we release, even if it's just a little, we move closer to the peace that comes from letting go. Life is a journey filled with twists, turns, and moments of uncertainty. We often find ourselves searching for meaning, whether in the successes we achieve, the relationships we cultivate, or the challenges we face. Yet meaning doesn't always come in grand gestures or clear-cut answers. In fact, much of life's meaning is found in the seemingly small, everyday moments that make up the fabric of our lives. It's easy to look for meaning in the destination, whether it's a specific goal, a milestone, or an ideal future. But if we only focus on what we're striving toward, we risk missing the beauty and significance of the path we're walking right now. Finding meaning in the journey requires us to shift our perspective from a destination-oriented mindset to one that embraces the present moment. It's about recognizing that every step, every choice, and every experience holds the potential for meaning. We don't always have control over where we end up, but we can choose how we engage with the process. When we begin to look for meaning in the journey itself, we find that the road we're on is just as important, if not more so, than the place we're trying to reach. Often, meaning is not something that is handed to us. It's something we create. It's woven into the way we respond to challenges, the way we learn from our mistakes, and the way we show up for ourselves and others. Every setback is an opportunity for growth, and every triumph is a chance to reflect on how far we've come. Meaning is found in our ability to navigate the ups and downs, to find purpose in the moments that seem insignificant, and to make sense of the chaos and unpredictability of life. One of the most profound ways we find meaning is through connection. We often search for purpose in our individual accomplishments, but true meaning often comes from how we relate to others. The relationships we build, the love we give, and the support we receive are what anchor us through difficult times. The people who walk with us, who challenge us, and who cheer us on play a crucial role in shaping our sense of meaning. It's in these connections that we find a reflection of ourselves, a mirror that shows us who we are and who we want to be. Meaning is born from our shared experiences, from the way we care for one another and offer comfort in times of struggle. But meaning isn't always tied to our interactions with others. Sometimes it's found in solitude, in quiet moments of introspection and self-discovery. We may spend much of our lives seeking validation from the outside world, but true meaning often emerges when we stop looking for answers externally and turn inward. The journey of self-understanding is one of the most significant we can undertake. It's through the process of knowing ourselves, our desires, our fears, our values, that we can begin to understand what really matters. When we allow ourselves the space to reflect, to sit with our feelings, and to ask difficult questions, we unlock a deeper sense of meaning that transcends external circumstances. Part of finding meaning in the journey is embracing uncertainty. Life is rarely straightforward, and the path ahead is often unclear. We want answers, we want certainty, but life doesn't always offer that. The unknown can be a source of anxiety, and it's easy to feel lost when we don't know exactly where we're going. Yet, it's often in the unknown that we discover our true potential. It's in the moments of uncertainty that we learn to trust ourselves, to trust the process, and to trust that the journey is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. When we embrace the unknown, we open ourselves to the possibility of growth, of unexpected joy, and of discovering things about ourselves that we couldn't have anticipated. Finding meaning also requires us to embrace the full spectrum of human emotions. Life is not just about the highs and successes, it's also about the lows, the failures, the heartbreaks, and the disappointments. It's in these moments of struggle that we often find the deepest meaning. We tend to shy away from pain, believing that it has no place in a meaningful life. Yet pain is often the catalyst for transformation. It teaches us resilience, empathy, and the importance of living authentically. When we allow ourselves to feel and process pain, we gain insight into our own capacity for healing, and we develop a deeper understanding of the human experience. Meaning doesn't come only from the positive experiences, but from how we integrate the difficult ones. Another way meaning emerges in the journey is through the practice of gratitude. Gratitude shifts our focus from what's missing or what's wrong to what is present and what is good. It allows us to find meaning in the everyday moments that often go unnoticed. When we cultivate a mindset of gratitude, we begin to see the richness of life all around us, the warmth of a morning sun, the comfort of a familiar routine, the kindness of a stranger. Gratitude reminds us that meaning doesn't always have to be found in the grand gestures, but often in the quiet, ordinary moments that make up our days. As we move through life, we often try to map out every step to control every outcome and to determine our own meaning. But the truth is, meaning isn't something we can dictate or force. It's something that emerges when we stop trying to control it and start letting life unfold as it will. The more we surrender to the process of the journey, the more we open ourselves to the deeper currents of meaning that run beneath the surface. When we stop chasing after meaning and start living with intention, we find that meaning reveals itself in the most unexpected ways, in the moments of joy, in the moments of pain, in the quiet spaces in between.